Hey, everybody. Welcome to Family Church Podcast. My name is Chuck Carter. I'm the lead pastor here at Family Church Central Florida.
That's
and
right.
I'll explain a little bit later why I've made that clarification on this one. And as always, I'm joined with...
I'm Felipe Mendez, your online pastor here at Family Church Podcast.
And we're today coming to you from Family Church, South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, this is the original Family Church. This is where we got our name. We had hired a group to come in and to kind of give us some ideas. We were First Baptist Windermere, but 3 of our campuses were nowhere near Windermere. We needed to rebrand. And after several failed attempts, I just came in and said, look, I love the name Family Church.
It sounds great.
And everybody agreed. And so we became Family Church in Central Florida.
Yeah. And one of the reasons that we're here today, it's pretty much to, we're going to have this, we're going to be listening from Seth. And also you want to stick to the very end where Chuck will bring us someone has to say it.
Seth is my oldest son.
That is true.
And you've been on this staff how long now?
It'll be 7 years in September.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So share with everybody. So this is one of our first podcasts where we're talking to other churches.
Mm-hmm.
And what better church than one that shares so much DNA and value and mission together? Talk first of all about what you do, and then give us an idea of the vision of Family Church.
Yeah, absolutely. I started off at Family Church in a worship role. I was a worship pastor for almost 5 years here at Family Church. And about 3 years ago, in fact, it was a 1 week before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. I had accepted a new position in our role. Our lead pastor, Pastor Jimmy, just talked to me about his heart for just increasing the amount of creativity and wanting to put more resources behind that from our church. And we didn't have a creative team at that moment, but he was looking for someone to build that and to start that off. And he knew that was a big passion of mine. And so he asked me if I would be willing to take on that role. To me, that's kind of a dream job. I had no clue that we would be solving, all the problems that all of us kind of navigated.
So you got this role, then immediately every church had to go into creative mode because nothing was happening in-house anymore, right?
Yes. A lot of people talk to me as if like, oh man, it's such an answer to prayer that we got you in this role before the pandemic hit. And I always thought that was such an odd thing to say because I was like, I've only been in this job for a week. Like,
that's right.
I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
you didn't have a lot to pull from. Right?
There was no experience there.
Everybody was in that role now.
We had a week head start. That's all we had.
I was putting together a live stream equipment and stuff just because we need something better right before the pandemic. So I was sitting down with Mark Goff. Remember that?
Yeah.
Russ Donahoe, Craig, and myself at Paloma's Coffee. It's the little coffee shop we have in Windermere. And we spent time researching things. Oh, this would be the best equipment for sound. This would be the best equipment for cameras and stuff. We had no idea what the pandemic was about.
We were already preparing for
exactly.
it. Exactly. And by the way, our live stream was horrendous before
it was
that.
So bad. It was so
terrible.
Bad. The production quality was not there.
How many campuses are y'all up to now?
So right now we're at 14, about to add a 15th in the fall.
That's awesome. We're at 5, and
it's pretty much we're getting there.
Yeah.
Come on.
So tell us about the vision for that, because most churches, it's like, how many can you get under one roof and all that. So talk about why 13, 14 campuses.
Over a decade ago, we were blessed with, our lead pastor, Jimmy Scroggins. He came.
Love that guy.
He came down and he had a specific vision for our city and a ministry model that he thought could be pretty effective for us, which was selectively abandoning the regional megachurch model of, hey, let's build as big of a building as possible, as many programs, and run the whole circus underneath one roof, and get as soon as you run out of space there, just add an addition onto the building, and and if it's a big enough attraction, people will drive from any distance. And what we then turned and leaned into was the neighborhood church. And so we're actually right now at a conference called The Power of the Neighborhood Church here at Family Church in South Florida, where we decided to go where the people were. And so our vision now is to put neighborhood churches in every neighborhood in South Florida, to take the gospel to every neighborhood and every person in South Florida. Our vision is to help families discover and pursue God's design. And so we believe the church is the vehicle that God has chosen for that. The ministry model, for us to accomplish that, we found a lot of success in smaller neighborhood churches with a neighborhood pastor that speaks the neighborhood language. And that we've seen a lot of amazing fruit from that over the past 10 years, where the pastor has enough bandwidth in their local community to be known, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in their neighborhood. They're seen as kind of a community figure, right? But like we've even been talking about this week as we've been preparing for this conference, being bound to a locality isn't a weakness. It's a strength, right? It gives you focus. It allows somebody to really put down roots, just like you wouldn't try to lead more than one family, right? Yeah. You're called to lead your family, and we've really found that God has blessed that, and it's been something that it's been a wild ride. We definitely don't know what we're doing because we don't have a lot of people to look to.
That's right. You're trailblazers in this.
But
the cool thing,
exciting.
of you being the creative pastor here, we get to share, struggles that we face throughout the process of creating new things. Yeah. And then as we achieve those successfully, we can share, hey, this is how I achieved this, and I can share this information with you. So you guys are providing us a lot of resources that we can reuse and maybe apply to our communities and test if this will work for us, or maybe we can adapt that. And in the same hand, you can also pull something from us that you guys need as well. So we are in this leadership community-based, or we can, share resources
just around. Like they have 14 campuses, we have a friendship between our churches, and that's been good. Let me just say, because we're going to get close to the end here, why I think this is so brilliant. First of all, you've already mentioned a lot of the reasons. You have neighborhood pastors speaking the neighborhood language. But let me get the practical side of it. Yep. The attractional church model that built the huge buildings that sat 3,000. First of all, that was a boomer phenomenon. Boomers are getting old. That's no longer what the next generation desires. Yeah. They look more towards the Dunbar principle that says you can know 120 people, and they want smaller, they want intimate. So there's that. The culture is moving in that direction anyway. Secondly, what we've seen post-pandemic is those large attractional churches are having a hard time getting people to come back. In fact, the larger the church and the more urban the church, the larger the percentage of people who've not returned. The smaller the church and the more rural the church, the higher percentage has returned. So even though you're basically in an urban suburban context, the fact that they're smaller communities, they're returning quicker, and we've seen that also, and so I think that's brilliant. And then we've talked about this in a previous podcast. Most pastors are not leaders. Most pastors are shepherds. That's why they get in the ministry. They love people. They want to love on people. So they don't know how to make those strategic moves because they're just not natural leaders. They know how to love on the people well. So you have a pastor who's a leader, who's a strategist, who can build a structure so that those pastors can thrive. Yeah. And I think that's where our culture is moving. Whether it's partnerships, whether it's whatever we want to call it, it's going to have to be churches working together to reach their communities. And man, we're so proud of you and what you're doing here in Family Church. I love the fact that we can do this together. And Felipe, any other questions for Seth?
Well, Seth, one of my last questions for you will be like, as a creative pastor here at Family Church, we've been talking about how we can improve our production of value in our church to reach more people with quality. We've been talking about this in the previous episode. Yeah. What advice you can give someone that is starting to think about improving their church experience?
One of the biggest things is I would say is find the places where you actually need to improve your production value. One of the biggest things that we found is sometimes you have a lot of wasted energy in trying to raise the floor of every single thing that you do, when really nobody's actually asking for this thing to feel more like a Hollywood movie. But they really would appreciate it if it sounded better or, this, that, or the other. And so we actually have done a lot of targeted improvements rather than like a sweeping change to, hey, we're going to, just because, the current Hollywood technology is this. We don't tend to take our cues from that. We try to let form follow function, right? And so whatever our needs are, a great example of that is the fact that we have democratized our baptism videos, right? We found in an age, this is something that tech companies have kind of already already gotten to, where we're realizing on social media platforms, people are very willing to watch videos that are just filmed with, things that fit into your pocket. And so we said, well, as our church baptizes so many people, we're seeing just an incredible movement of God's faithfulness right now. I think as we sit right now, we're at 152 weeks in a row of baptizing people, which is incredible to see. Also for we run at Family Church, we staff pretty thin on the creative front, where we don't have a creative person at every campus. Right. And so a lot of times it's an impossibility to be everywhere all at once. Being able to then pass out, everybody's got an iPhone. If you're present at the baptism, the campus pastor then being the person responsible for making sure their baptism is filmed. They're not all going to be Steven Spielberg.
But that's okay.
That's totally fine. And so it's kind of like picking and choosing. We picked that battle as, hey, that's going to be a pretty, the production value is going to be low, but the value is going to be high because our reach is going to extend. Yeah.
And for those who may not know, I mean, you baptize in the ocean, you baptize in swimming pools, you baptize in just anywhere you find water, some places, right?
If you have water
enough all over,
to submerge someone.
That's it.
But I would say, as a general practice, though, of improving your production quality, we could talk for 7 hours on how to do that. Yeah. If we're going to talk pretty broad brush about that, I cannot stress enough how important it is the people that are excellent at improving production quality. It's not about how much money they spend. It's about how much attention to detail they show every single item, and the ability to effectively prioritize the right things, right? Yeah. And so they can selectively abandon, this is not important, this doesn't have the right amount of impact, so I'm going to spend the least amount of time on this. But this is incredibly important. Every eye in my church is going to see this. They're going to see it multiple times. Well, immediately their attention to detail on that item skyrockets. Yeah. That's kind of how we try to lead our creative team here at Family Church, and it shows a lot of important dividends for us.
Awesome. Well, every podcast we go off with one of my, somebody has to say it.
That is correct.
My brain is filled with things that I just think is obvious, but nobody ever says it. So here's somebody says it for this podcast. You go to the mall or you go to a big box store, and there's that person who drives for 10, 15 minutes trying to find a closer parking spot to the door.
Gotcha.
Now, I'm not talking handicap. I'm just talking about they're lazy, right? And so they're trying look, that's the person who needs to park as far away from the store as they can and get in as many steps as they can, because that may be the only steps they're getting in that day. Look, somebody needs to say it. Just park where there's an open space and walk, okay?
Well,
all right, sign us out, Felipe.
So I thank you, Seth, one more time to be here with us. You guys also have a podcast, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Church for the Rest of Us
We've
podcast. All you have to do is Google Church.
Yeah, Church for the Rest of Us podcast. In fact, we have a lot of podcasts in our Family Church podcasting network. Mom Village, Peculiar People.
Oh, that's cool.
A lot of different things. If you Google Family Church Network or Church for the Rest of Us podcast, you'll find.
And this is available in YouTube, Spotify,
everywhere that podcasts are found.
Cool.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Thank you one more time, guys. Thank you for being with us, and let's keep being the church. Thank you.